Mr. Odell, in May sales for Ford were up. So where do you see Europe in this? Is there a recovery taking place?
Well, our prediction for the European 19 industry this year is between still 14.5 and 15.5 million. I know that's a wide range, but it's pretty difficult to predict where the industry is going to go. First quarter industry started really well. Second quarter has been a little bit more difficult as we start to see austerity measures kick in and concerns about sovereign debt. So I still believe that we're in that range, and the good news is we're seeing C-Max now full availability, Focus with full availability, and we're obviously starting to see our sales trend up as those vehicles are available in the market.
And in overall sales, which role did incentives play in Europe?
Well, incentives are a part of the business. Unfortunately, when you're in a business with fairly large overcapacity, people are constantly trying to sell their capacity utilization, so it's a part to play. Our incentive levels are at a competitive but slightly lower level because our capacity utilization is at the slightly higher level. So, but it's just part of the industry that we're involved in today.
And talking about overcapacity, you mentioned overcapacity today quite a lot. Where does Ford stand, and do you think it's going to be a problem maybe going forward if there should be a further downturn or slowdown in the economy?
I believe, based on the projections that I've seen, that Europe will continue to recover, albeit slowly. There's a multi-pace recovery. Northern Europe is clearly recovering, I don't mean it's quite as black and white as this, but Northern Europe is clearly recovering at a faster rate because of manufacturing bases, etc., than parts of Southern Europe. And UK's, sort of stuttering a little bit at the moment as the austerity measures start to kick in. So, and Ford have progressively over the years taken action to right-size their capacity. So again, our capacity utilization is at the higher level. But that, one manufacturer on their own can't change the whole incentive scenario across Europe.
And do you actually have a plan then to adapt capacity very quickly in case of a...
It's difficult to adapt capacity quickly, frankly, anywhere. But a couple of weeks ago, we made an announcement on our vehicle operations footprint, which included, moving towards a 3-shift operation in Valencia, growing our capacity in Romania, which is our new plant that is a brownfield site. We're having a joint venture in Russia with Sollers, where we're going to end up with 3 manufacturing plants rather than 1 to match the demand. So I think we've got a very good plan for capacity utilization across Europe. Of course, you have to be flexible in your approach because who knows when the next downturn is. There's one out there. But I rather hope that we've got some growth to do before we actually hit that next downturn.
And you mentioned investment in the production line in Europe and also further investment in the UK. Can you expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, well, the investment that I spoke about specifically this morning was just for the UK.
Yeah.
Of course, we're investing in our other operations in Spain, in Belgium. We had an investment agreement last year in Germany, Romania, and Turkey. We have a joint venture in Russia, but we've committed to investing £1.5 billion in the next 5 years in the UK, which we previously announced. That's not new news, and that will be for development of low carbon engines, which obviously we build in Dagenham and Bridgend. In fact, we build 1/3 of our world's global volume of engines in Dagenham and Bridgend. Of course, continuing to manufacture of Transit in Southampton and grow our engineering capability in Dunton. So we see as continuing and actually re-establishing that base.
Okay. And does this expansion not contradict a bit the fact that there is already overcapacity in the marketplace?
Well, as I say, it's not a capacity expansion in the vehicle operations here, but it is as we continue to grow our business as the market recovers. A number of us laid a lot of people off, actually progressively before the recession. We're looking for replenishment because we need to replace our engineers. We're looking for new competencies, electrical engineering, powertrain engineering, And so as a normal business, you have to replace people as well as add people where necessary. So we'll measure our capacity utilization, and we'll do whatever we need to go forward to be competitive.
And how many, within the next year, how many additional jobs do you think will be created in the UK and also in Europe?
Yeah, not specific on the UK because we haven't quite figured it out yet, but at salaried level, several hundred across Europe. And at least half of those will be engineers. So clearly, half of our engineering base is in Germany, half of it in the UK. UK will be a beneficiary of some of that hiring.
And which role will Europe have in the overall plan to expand sales by 50% by 2015?
Okay, well, I think Alan was fairly explicit that he sees a lot of the growth, of course, in Asia, where we're investing for the future. But also we would expect to see growth of our business in Europe, predominantly as the European industry recovers. Pre-recession, the European 19 markets that we call Western Europe were running at an annualized rate of close to 19 million. This year closer to 15 million. So there's huge scope for that industry to recover, although I think it will take time. And that, I think, is a large part of the volume growth.
And you can't give us a more precise
No. If you give a target, if I hit it, you say it was too easy, and if I miss it, you tell me I failed. So, the fact is you can't be that prescriptive, and you never could be. But post-recession, things can fluctuate so wildly. What you need is a plan that's flexible.
Mm-hmm. And they now plan to roll out 20 new or upgraded models in Europe. Which models are we talking about? What is your focus here?
Right. Well, I'm not prepared to give you my cycle plan right now, but we have already previously announced that by the end of 2013, we will completely regenerate, replace, renew our commercial vehicle lineup, which is a big part of our European lineup. We've spoken about added products in the B segment. We've also mentioned, I think last week, that the B-Max will be built in Craiova in Romania. And we've already launched, of course, the new Focus and the new C-Max. But as we progressively launch those, then we'll inform you. I won't pre-inform you the specific model.
And do you see any gaps, specific gaps?
There's always gaps, but we're a volume manufacturer in the heart of the market. It's important that we replenish and renew and have a young cadence of vehicles, which under one Ford we're able to do, because we've got the growth and the scale to be able to leverage changing vehicles from a fairly large volume base. That there are always opportunities, and we'll look at those going forward.
And are you planning to Myford Touch and the Sync Entertainment, which didn't get that good reviews in the US? Are you planning to bring them to Europe? Are you, in case?
No, Alan was at CeBIT earlier this year, Alan Mullally, excuse me, and he announced that Sync and then Myford Touch would be coming to Europe. The plan is next year, Sync will come to Europe. And the good news about some of the reported issues is that Ford, because of their system of getting information back early, had an early signal, early warning of some of those issues, and were already working on them by the time the data was published. So I'm very confident that Sync will be yet another technological add to something like Focus, for instance. Focus has got more technology than any other volume C car, than actually many other C cars, be they luxury or non-luxury. And we're getting tremendous feedback on the technology on that car.
So you're bringing them onto, on the models, sold in Europe as well, though, obviously.
But progressively we will. Definitely the plan is to bring Sync and Myford Touch, Sync next year, and then we'll roll in Myford Touch at the appropriate time.
And you're confident that by then the glitches will be?
I'm very confident of that. But if it's not right, we won't do it. But I'm very confident that we'll be fine.
And how about, you mentioned also tariffs. It seemed a big issue today about not always working in the best interest for...
Well, it wasn't tariff, it's the removal of tariffs, and that free trade agreements between geographic areas have to be balanced. And as because Ford exports about 85% of the vehicles it sells around the world. So we are absolute advocates of free trade, but it has to be balanced and free trade. It has to mean that the tariffs, the official tariffs, come down at the same level at the same time, and the non-official, the non-trade barriers, the documentation, etc., that is also made into a level playing field as well.
And the white paper you mentioned, can you give us more details about that?
Sure, there is a European Commission Transport Whitepaper that talks about, it's a long way out, which I think is exactly their purpose. They should generate discussion, they should identify potential issues and solutions in the long term, but I worry about the content of it, since it suggests that only electric vehicles should be available by 2030 in inner cities, and only public transportation outside of cities by 2050. Now, I worry that's so far away that our elected politicians might not engage in the discussion, which I think they have to. Congestion's an issue, we all accept that, and the OEM manufacturers have to be part of that solution, not the only part of the solution. And the level of employment across Europe for automotive and sort of tangential businesses is about 13 million. So we need to have that debate included in the discussion as well. I agree we need solutions to some of the issues, but we can't just jump from private transportation to public transportation as a solution. I believe that actually goes against consumer choice. UK Inc., if you like, exports 1 million vehicles, builds 1 million vehicles a year. It exports, I can't remember the number now, certainly several million engines a year. It's a positive trade balance for the UK. 7 vehicle manufacturers are represented here, and 8 commercial vehicle manufacturers are represented here, and 8 Formula One teams are represented here, as well as our own WRC team. So it's still very much seen as a base for automotive infrastructure. My encouragement, if you like, to the government and to my colleagues is that we make sure that continues to be the case, as other people see the opportunities around the world, China, Russia, India, etc., to be part of this. No longer, it's not a stagnant industry, it's a growth, high-tech industry. And I absolutely believe the UK and Europe should be part of that.
And do you think that, where can they keep an edge?
Well, clearly at the moment the edge is on high technology, particularly powertrain development. Manufacturing engineers are probably amongst the best in the world in US and in Germany and the UK. So I think that's a capability that Europe should not let go.
And do you have also further plans for expanding, obviously, your production in Europe?
Well, as I said, we announced last week that we will be building up our production capability in Romania. We're putting a lot of investment, we're spending close to 700 million euros in that plant, because it's an engine plant and a manufacturing plant. We're just going to go into a joint venture in Russia, where we'll move from 1 plant to 3 plants plus an engine plant. We're going to make Valencia a 3-shift operation, and we've signed agreements in Germany with our unions. So, I think that is definitely the proactive movement of a company that sees growth opportunity in Europe.